Hey everyone, welcome back to SRC Names. So this is part 15 of my 20-part series where I go through my entire names list in reverse alphabetical order. I will get to the new names that I've added since the last video, but first I wanted to show you guys that I have added Alistair to my top 20 list. It is in between Harry and Alec. And as a result, I took out Evan from my list. I seemed to like Kevin a lot more. And I moved up, just for the record, I moved up Hadrian. I've grown to really like this name. And so now it's just behind Adrian. I still like Adrian a little bit more, but I am still growing on Hadrian. So now the new names that I've added, one boy's name, and that is Harmon. I really like the sound of this name. And then for the girls, I have added Yvonne, which I am not the biggest fan of Y names, and so this is actually the fourth Y name on my list. But I found this on a person a while back, and it reminded me of the name itself, and so I added it and really liked it. And then I have my second X name from my list, and that is Xylia, which is one of the names in the Winter Storm list for 2020 to 2021. And then, actually, most of these names, including Harmon, come from Raquel's newest list, and that includes a name that I absolutely love, and that is Tourmaline. I absolutely love this name, how it sounds and how it looks. Melora is a pretty name from her list as well. Atlee is really fun to say, and so I added both of those spellings. I like those. And then I added Madeleine as a nice alternative to Madeline or Madeline. And then looking at my E names, which I'll go over after I say that I have added Eleonora to my list. I've been seeing it a lot on Nameberry, and it has grown on me enough to add it. I still prefer Eleanor, but I do like Eleonora. So now here are all the E names on my list, starting with the boys. We have Earl, two different spellings of that. I tend to prefer the one without the E. And then we have Easton. L, which is a nice nickname for a lot of the following names. Elbert, which I saw a number of years ago and had recently seen. So interestingly, I did not think of Albert when I saw it. But I do really, really like the name. Now I'm kind of almost thinking of it as a modern version of Albert, but it has a really pretty sound to it. Eldon I like as well, as far as the sound goes. And then we have Ellie, which is a nice nickname for Elliot and similar names. Elian, Elias, or Elias. And Elijah is in the top 10 now for boys. It has been for a while. Then we have Elliot, the streamlined spelling, which is growing on me. And then Elkin, another fun to say name. Ellery is one that I have liked for a while now. I really like its sound. And then Ellington, and the two other Elliot spellings on my list, I have really been growing on the first spelling even more than the streamlined spelling. But Elliot with two L's and two T's is still, and always has been, my preferred spelling of the name. And for the past over 2 years now, it's been my number one boy's name on my list. And then we have Ellis, which has a nice sound to it. Ellison, which I originally thought was a girl's name, interestingly enough, because I was comparing it with Allison, but I found out later that it was in fact a boy's name, and I think it fits really well with on a boy. And then we have Elmer, Emery, Emmanuel, Emmett, which is another one that I really like the sound of. And interestingly, I compared that one to Emma, and so I thought it was a girl's name upon first glance as well. And then my preferred spelling of Emery, also the one that I have seen more often. I do like the other spelling a lot, though. Then we have Emerald, which I recently added. And then Emrys, which has a nice ring to it. Endel has a nice sound to it as well. I have always liked that. It kind of reminds me of the girl's name Kendall. And then we have Ender, a rather unique spelling of that name. And then Endymion, Ephraim, and Eridan, which has a nice sound to it. And then an alternative spelling to Aaron, maybe if the traditional spelling is perhaps too popular where the person giving birth is, they could use Aaron spelled this way. Then we have 3 spellings of Eric. Kind of in the middle of those is Erie. This list is alphabetical. And I tend to prefer the traditional spelling of Eric, but there are some spellings that have grown on me, including Eric spelled with an A instead of an E. And then we have Eris, then Ermic, Ernest, Ernie, which is a nice nickname for Ernest, Erwin. I prefer this spelling over starting with an I. I really like how this spelling looks. And then we have Esper, which is now reminding me of the girl's name Hesper. I really like it. Then we have Estevan, which is another fun to say name. Evan, which is the name that recently got pulled off my top 20 names list in favor of Alistair, but I still really like the name. And then we have Evander. Everett. Everett is one of those names that reminds me of Elliot because it has a similar sound, and I have really grown to love it. But I have heard people pronounce it as Everett with 2 syllables. I tend to say Everett with 3 syllables, but I'm hearing it more and more often with 2. And then we have Everett, and another name that I have absolutely loved. It grew on me for a while, but I still really like it. It's still in my top 10, top 5, I think even. It's been on and off my top 5, but that, of course, is Ezra, and I've been seeing it a lot on Nameberry as well. And now for the girls. We have, starting off the girls list, Erlene, Eartha as an Eartha Kit, and then Avon, which has a nice sound to it. I have recently been thinking of Ava when I see the name Avon. Then we have Eden, Edith, and then Isla, Eilish, as in Billie Eilish. I had heard that Eilish was going to be her name had her mom's dad not pass days or weeks before she gave birth to Billie. That's only what I've heard. And then we have Emil, Ella, with only one L, which has a nice feel to it, I think. Then we have Elena, Elaine, Elara. Elda has a nice sound to it. Then Eleanor, which for a long time I strongly preferred over Eleonora. I'm not the biggest fan of the name Nora, but I do like Eleonora. It has a nice sound to it, and so I added it just a few minutes before I made this video, in fact. And then we have another interesting spelling for Eleanor, and then Elena or Elena, then Eleni, probably. I guess it could also be Eleni, but I think Eleni would be a little more common. And then we have Eliara. And then Elida, Elena, Eliora, which is another name that I recently added that I found on Amaryllis's YouTube channel, and I really like the sound of Eliora. And then we have Elise, Alyssa, which is a nice spelling, alternative spelling to the one that to my friend's spelling, which is Alyssa. Then we have Eliza, my favorite Elizabeth variant. And then Elka, Elk, Ella, which I have really grown to like. Sort of a nice alternative to Emma. And then we have Ellen, Eliana, which I've always loved, Ellie, Ellison for a girl. I have actually seen Ellison for a girl despite it being mainly a boy's name. Alyssa again, and then Ellie, Ellen with a Y, Elmira, which is a place name, and then Elodie, Elona, which is actually alone in reverse. Then we have Elsa, which has a nice ring to it. I like it a lot. Elsie, Elspeth, Elva. Elva has a nice ring to it too. Elvia, Eliana with a Y, Elise with a Y, and then Ember, which could be a nice alternative to Amber. Then Emberly, Amelia with an E, which could be a nice alternative to Amelia with an A. I have a couple other versions of this name. Then we have Emmeline, Emerson, which I really like. Emerson with a Y as well. Then we have Emery for a girl. And then a nice alternative to the popular Emily spelling. Then we have Amelia, Emiliana, which I really like. Then Emily again, and then the more classic spelling of Emily, which is still my favorite of them. And then Emlyn, Emma, which is number 2 right now on the girls list for the most popular names of 2019. Then we have Emily, which is actually a really nice spelling, really unusual, and it still has that Emma vibe, but when you say it, it sounds like Emily. Then we same for the other spelling of Emily as well. And then we have Emmeline, 2 spellings of that name. And then Emmanuel, which I really like on a girl. And then Emmy, Emmeline again. But I guess this could also be Emmeline. Once I saw it for the first time, I thought it was Emmeline, but I had heard it as Emmeline a lot before. I guess it could also be Emmeline. So I'm not sure which one it is. It could be all 3. If you know somebody with this name, or if you know perhaps what the most common pronunciation of this name is, feel free to let me know in the comments. And then we have Emmy, again, but spelled like the award. And then Endel, which has a nice ring to it. I really like it. Enid, Ensley, I like that a lot. Erilyn, I tend to prefer Erilyn with an A, but I do like this spelling. And then Erica, 3 spellings of that. I like the more classic Erica with a C, but Erica with a K is definitely growing on me. And then we have Erin, the girl's name, both with 1 N and 2 N's. I prefer 1 N. Then we have Eris. And Eritrea I had discovered a couple of years ago, and I actually haven't heard it since. And we have Ariana, which has a nice sound to it. I really like it. Another spelling of Aaron and Eris. Then we have Esme, Esmeralda, then Esmeralda. Esmeralda I had only recently discovered. And then Esmeralda I've seen a lot. And then we have Estella, Estelle, Esther, which has recently grown on me enough to add to my top 10, if not top 5 girls' name list. And then we have Estrella, then Etna, Ethel, Eva or Ava. I've only recently heard it as Ava, and I actually really like it. I still prefer Ava, A-V-A, if it were pronounced Ava, but I do like Ava, E-V-A. And then we have Evelyn with an A. Then Evan for a girl. I've seen that before. And then I say this name as Evangeline, but it could also be Evangeline, as far as I know. Then we have Ivana, Evanthea, which has a nice sound to it. And then Eve, Evelina. I like the sound of Evelina. Then we have Evelyn, of course. Then Everly. 3 different spellings of that. I like this name a lot. Reminds me of Beverly, of course, but Everly is a nice alternative to that. Maybe if somebody thinks Beverly is too dated. Then we have Yvette with an E. I added that long before Yvette with a Y. Like I said before, I am not the biggest fan of Y names, but once I met an Yvette with a Y who is just a genuinely really sweet girl, I added it, and I started to really like the name from there. And then we have Evie and Aisha, which I generally like with an A, but I do like it with an E. So those are the E names on my list. Stay tuned for the D names and whatever other videos I think about showing you guys coming up in the next few days. Thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed.